Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're joining me tonight. I've got a creepy tale that'll keep you up for days. If you're new here, I'm your host, and I love diving into the darkest corners of the unknown. Grab some snacks, turn down the lights, and let's get started. This story's about me, Emily Carter, a 24-year-old college student who thought a night shift at a convenience store would be easy money, until I learned the rules that came with it. I'd been scraping by on student loans, working odd jobs to pay for my biology degree at Missouri State. Rent was due and my bank account was running on fumes, so when I saw an ad for a night shift at Raven's Rest, a little convenience store off the highway, I jumped at it. The place was out in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by cornfields and woods, but the pay was decent, $15 an hour. Cash under the table if I wanted. My roommate, Jess, wasn't so sure. "That place is creepy, she said, her eyes wide. "I heard the last girl who worked there just disappeared." I laughed it off. "It's just a store, Jess. I'll be fine." Famous last words, right? I drove out there for my first shift on a foggy Tuesday night, my old Honda rattling down the empty highway. Raven's Rest looked like it hadn't been updated since the 80s, faded neon sign flickering, windows smudged, and a parking lot with more potholes than pavement. Inside, the air smelled like stale coffee and cleaning spray, and the fluorescent lights buzzed loud enough to make my head ache. The shelves were packed with chips, candy, and soda, but everything was a little off. Labels peeling, cans dented, like no one cared to restock properly. A small counter sat by the door, with a cash register older than me and a security camera screen that flickered every few seconds. The manager, Mr. Tom, was waiting for me, a short guy in his 50s with a gray beard and tired eyes. He didn't smile, just handed me a name tag and a clipboard with a list of rules written in Sharpie. "You're on from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., he said, his voice gruff. "You're alone? So you gotta follow these rules, no exceptions. Break 'em, and I can't help you." I skimmed the list, my stomach twisting a little. Rule 1. Don't leave the counter unless absolutely necessary. Rule 2. Keep the lights on, always. Rule 3. Lock the front door at 1 a.m., no matter what. Rule 4. If a customer asks you anything, don't answer. Just nod or shake your head. There were more, but I stopped reading, thinking it was some kind of weird hazing for newbies. Tom left after showing me the basics, how to ring up sales, where the mop was, how to check the cameras. "Good luck, kid," he muttered, grabbing his coat and heading out. The door jingled as he left, and I was alone, the hum of the lights and the tick of the clock on the wall my only company. I settled behind the counter, pulling out my biology textbook to study, figuring it'd be a quiet night. The fog outside got thicker, pressing against the windows, and I kept glancing at the rules, something about them making me uneasy. Around 11 p.m. I heard a noise, a soft thud like something falling off a shelf, coming from the back of the store near the storage room. I looked up, my heart picking up a beat, but the aisles were empty. The camera screen showed nothing, just static and shadows. Probably just a rat, I told myself, gripping my pen a little tighter. But the thud came again, louder, and I swore I heard a faint rustle, like something moving back there. Rule 1 flashed in my mind, don't leave the counter. But I couldn't just sit there, right? I grabbed the flashlight Tom had left under the register, my hands a little shaky, and stepped out from behind the counter, my sneakers squeaking on the linoleum floor. The aisles were narrow, the shelves towering over me, and the buzzing lights made everything look sickly yellow. I moved toward the back, shining my light down each row, but nothing was out of place. No rats, no fallen cans, nothing. I reached the storage room door, a heavy metal thing with a rusted handle, and the thud came again, right from the other side. My breath caught and I reached for the handle but stopped. The air felt colder here, and I swear I felt something, like a stare, heavy and sharp, watching me from the dark. I backed away, my heart pounding, and hurried back to the counter, the rules burning in my mind. I sat down, my hands trembling, and flipped open my textbook, trying to focus, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. The clock ticked past midnight, and the fog outside seemed to move, swirling like it was alive. I kept glancing at the camera screen, the static flickering, and every few minutes, I'd hear another noise. A scrape, a shuffle, always from the back. I told myself it was the building settling, the wind outside, but my gut knew better. Around 12:30, the door jingled, and I jumped, my textbook sliding off the counter. A customer walked in. A tall guy in a long black coat, his face pale, his eyes hidden under a baseball cap. He didn't look at me, just wandered the aisles, his boots heavy on the floor. I watched him on the camera, my hands sweaty, and remembered Rule 4, don't answer questions. He grabbed a bag of chips, walked up to the counter, and set it down, his voice low. "You got any water in the back?" I froze, my throat tight, and shook my head, keeping my mouth shut. He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded, paid in crumpled bills, and left without another word. The second the door closed, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding, my hands shaking as I rang up the sale. The fog swallowed him up outside, and I glanced at the camera screen, expecting to see the empty lot. But he wasn't there, no sign of him walking away, no car, nothing. My stomach dropped, and I checked the rules again, my eyes lingering on Rule 4. Who was he? And why did it feel like he'd never really left? I settled back behind the counter, the clock ticking toward 1 a.m., and I knew this night was just getting started. The clock on the wall ticked closer to 1 a.m., each second stretching longer than the last. That first customer, the guy in the long black coat, had vanished into the fog without a trace, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still out there watching. The rules Mr. Tom gave me sat on the counter. Rule 4 burned into my brain. Don't answer questions. My hands shook as I picked up my biology textbook, trying to focus on cell diagrams, but the buzz of the lights and the drip of a leaky pipe in the back kept pulling me out of it. Raven's Rest didn't feel like a store anymore. It felt like a cage. Just after 1 a.m., I locked the front door like the rules said, the heavy bolt clicking into place. The fog outside was so thick I couldn't see the parking lot, just a gray wall pressing against the windows. I turned back to the counter, my sneakers squeaking on the floor. And that's when I heard it, a loud crash from aisle 3, like a whole shelf had tipped over. My heart jumped and I grabbed my flashlight, my hands sweaty. Rule 1 flashed in my mind, don't leave the counter, but I couldn't ignore that sound. What if something broke? I'd have to explain it to Tom. I stepped out, my light shaking, and moved toward aisle 3. The snack aisle with chips and candy. The fluorescent lights buzzed louder, flickering for a second, and the air felt colder the further I went. When I got there, I saw a mess, bags of chips scattered on the floor, a box of cereal torn open, the flakes spilling everywhere. I shone my light around, but no one was there, no rats, no wind, nothing to explain it. My stomach twisted and I knelt to pick up the mess, my hands trembling as I scooped the cereal back into the box. That's when I heard a rustle behind me, like someone moving in the next aisle. I froze, my light snapping up, but the aisle was empty. "Hello?" I called, my voice shaky, then remembered Rule 4, don't answer, don't talk. I clamped my mouth shut, my heart pounding, and hurried back to the counter, leaving the mess behind. I sat down, my hands gripping the edge, and checked the camera screen. Static, then a clear view of the aisles. Nothing moved, but I swore I saw a shadow flicker in the corner of the screen, gone before I could focus. My throat tightened and I kept my eyes on the rules, trying to calm down. Around 2 a.m., the door rattled like someone was trying to get in even though it was locked. I jumped, my flashlight falling to the floor with a clatter, and stared at the door. The fog swirled, but I couldn't see anyone. The rattling stopped and I let out a shaky breath, picking up my light. Then the door rattled again, harder, like someone was slamming their fist against it. I froze, my heart in my throat, and remembered Rule 3, keep the door locked after 1 a.m. no matter what. I didn't move, didn't make a sound, and after a minute the rattling stopped, leaving just the hum of the lights and my ragged breathing. That's when another noise hit me. A soft thud, then another, coming from aisle 5. I looked at the camera screen, my hands trembling, and saw a can of soda rolling across the floor, like someone had knocked it over. But the aisle was empty, no one was there. I gripped the counter, my nails digging into the wood, and watched as another can fell, then a bag of chips, the crashes echoing in the quiet store. My stomach churned, and I whispered to myself, it's just the shelves, just gravity. But I didn't believe it. The rules kept me glued to the counter, but every thud made my nerves scream. Around 3 a.m., the door jingled. Not the locked front door, but the bell on the employee entrance in the back near the storage room. My blood ran cold. That door was supposed to be locked, Tom had checked it himself. I grabbed my flashlight, my hands sweaty, and checked the camera screen, but the angle didn't show the back door, just the storage room entrance, dark and empty. I heard footsteps now, slow and heavy, coming from the back, and my heart raced. I wanted to call out to see if it was Tom, but Rule 4 stopped me. Don't answer, don't talk. The footsteps got closer, and a shadow stretched across the floor, long and thin. Moving toward the counter, I held my breath, my light shaking, and saw a figure step into the light, a woman, tall and pale, her hair wet like she'd been in the rain, her eyes hidden in shadow. She wore a faded blue dress, her hands clutching a dollar bill, and she walked straight to the counter, her steps silent now. She set the bill down, her voice low and raspy. "Do you have any matches?" she asked, her head tilting slightly. I swallowed hard, my throat dry, and shook my head, following the rule. She stared at me, her lips twitching into a faint smile, then turned and walked back toward the storage room, her shadow stretching long behind her. I watched her on the camera screen, my hands trembling, but the second she reached the storage room door, she was gone, vanished like she'd never been there. The dollar bill was still on the counter, crumpled and damp, and I picked it up, my fingers shaking. It smelled like mildew, and when I unfolded it, there was a faint red stain on the corner, like blood. My stomach dropped, and I shoved it into the register, slamming the drawer shut. The camera screen flickered again, showing the storage room door closed, locked, like nothing had happened. But I knew she'd been real. I could still smell that mildew, still feel her stare. The rest of the night dragged on, the thuds and rustles coming every few minutes, always from a different aisle. I stayed behind the counter, my hands gripping the flashlight, my eyes darting between the camera screen and the rules. The fog outside didn't let up, and every shadow seemed to move, stretching toward me. I kept telling myself it was just a weird night, just my imagination, but deep down, I knew better. Raven's Rest wasn't normal, and those rules weren't just for show. Something was here, something that knew I was alone, and it was testing me. I just had to make it to 6 a.m. But the clock seemed to be slowing down, and the night wasn't even close to over. The damp dollar bill sat in the register, its red stain glaring at me every time I opened the drawer, and that woman's raspy voice, "Do you have any matches?" kept echoing in my head. The clock ticked past 4 a.m., but the night felt endless, the fog outside pressing against the windows like it was trying to get in. The thuds from the aisles hadn't stopped, and that shadow on the camera screen flickering, gone before I could blink, made my stomach twist. Raven's Rest was alive with something I couldn't explain, and the rules were the only thing keeping me sane. But that was about to change. Around 4:30, I heard a new sound, a soft knock, rhythmic and steady, coming from the bathroom at the back of the store. My heart skipped, and I glanced at the camera screen, the black and white feed showing the bathroom door, closed and still. The knocking grew louder, mixing with a low hum, like someone whispering under their breath. I gripped my flashlight, my hands sweaty, and remembered Rule 1. Don't leave the counter unless absolutely necessary. But the noise wouldn't stop, and I couldn't just sit there, pretending it was nothing. What if it was a customer stuck inside? I had to check. I stepped out, my sneakers squeaking on the linoleum, the air growing colder as I moved toward the bathroom. The aisles were quiet now, the fallen chips and cans still scattered, but the shadows seemed to stretch, watching me. I reached the bathroom door, a chipped wooden thing with an out-of-order sign taped crookedly, and the knocking turned into a tap-tap-tap, like fingernails on the other side. My breath hitched, and I pressed my ear to the door, hearing that hum again, a voice so faint I couldn't make out the words. "Hello?" I whispered, forgetting Rule 4 for a second, then clamped my mouth shut, my heart pounding. I pushed the door open a crack, my flashlight shaking, and peeked inside. The bathroom was small, with a single sink, a cracked mirror, and a stall with the door half open. The air smelled like mold and something sour, and the knocking stopped the moment I stepped in. I shone my light around, the beam catching the edges of the stall, and saw movement, a shadow, quick and low, darting behind the door. My stomach dropped, and I backed up, my hand on the doorframe. "Is someone there?" I asked, breaking Rule 4 again, my voice trembling. No answer, just silence, heavy and thick. I forced myself to move closer, my light trembling, and pushed the stall door open. Nothing empty, just a dirty toilet and graffiti on the walls, some of it scratched deep, like claws. But as I turned to leave, I heard it, A whisper, clear this time, Emily, coming from the sink where the faucet dripped slow, each drop hitting the porcelain with a plink. I froze, my light shaking, and saw the mirror fog up, the word stay written in the steam, the letters jagged and uneven. My breath caught and I stumbled back, the door slamming shut behind me as I ran to the counter, my heart racing. Back at the counter, I sat, my hands gripping the edge, my eyes darting to the camera screen. The bathroom feed showed the door, closed, but the static flickered, and for a second I saw a figure. A tall shape in a long coat, standing inside, its face blurred. Then it was gone. The screen clear again, and I rubbed my eyes, wondering if I was losing it. The whispers lingered, Emily, faint but real, and I checked the rules, my fingers shaking. Rule 2, keep the lights on, kept me from turning them off, but I wanted to run to get out of this place. Around 5 a.m., the door rattled again, harder this time, like someone was pounding on it. I jumped, my flashlight clattering to the floor, and stared at the lock. Still secure, the fog swirling outside. The pounding stopped, and a new sound came. A scrape, slow and deliberate, moving along the outside wall, heading toward the back. My stomach churned, and I checked the camera screen, the backlot feed showing nothing but fog. Then the scrape stopped, and the bathroom door on the screen creaked open, just a crack, though I knew I'd shut it tight. I heard the whisper again, Emily, louder now, coming from the bathroom, and the lights flickered, buzzing like they were about to die. I grabbed my phone, my hands trembling, and tried to call Tom, but there was no signal, just static, like the line was dead. My heart pounded, and I stayed behind the counter, the rules my only anchor, but every sound made me jump. The scrape started again, moving back toward the front, and I saw a shadow past the window, tall, thin, wearing a long coat, gone before I could focus. The clock ticked to 5:30, and the store grew colder, the air thick with that sour smell from the bathroom. I heard a thud from aisle 2, then another, like cans falling, and the camera screen flickered, showing that figure again. Standing in the aisle, its head tilted, its face a blur. I froze, my breath shallow, and watched as it turned toward the camera, its hand raising like a wave. Then the screen went black, the lights dimmed, and the whisper came again, Emily, stay, so close I felt it on my neck. I spun around, my light shaking, but the counter was empty, just the rules staring back at me. I stayed put, my hands gripping the flashlight, my mind racing. The bathroom, the whispers, the shadow, it was all connected, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd broken a rule just by checking. The clock hit 6 a.m., and the fog started to lift, the first hint of dawn peeking through. Tom showed up, his truck rumbling into the lot, and I bolted out from behind the counter, my legs shaky. You okay, kid? He asked, eyeing me funny. I nodded, my throat tight. But I didn't tell him about the whispers or the figure. I just wanted to go home, to forget this night. But I couldn't forget. At home, I locked my apartment door, my hands still trembling, and sat on the couch, the flashlight beside me. The sour smell lingered on my clothes, and I heard a faint knock, soft, rhythmic, coming from the bathroom down the hall. My heart skipped, and I checked my phone, the screen showing no missed calls, just static when I tried to call Jess. The whisper came again, Emily, faint but clear, and I knew it wasn't over. Raven's Rest had marked me, and whatever was in that store was following me home. I just had to figure out why. The whisper, Emily, followed me home, lingering in my ears like a bad dream I couldn't shake. That sour smell from Raven's Rest clung to my clothes. And the faint knocking from my apartment bathroom kept me up all day, my flashlight never leaving my side. I didn't sleep, my mind replaying the night, the falling cans, the woman in the blue dress, the shadow in the bathroom mirror. I wanted to quit, to never go back, but I needed the money, and something else tugged at me. I need to understand what was happening. I wasn't ready to face it again, but I had to. That evening, I dragged myself back to Raven's Rest, the fog rolling in thicker than before, the neon sign flickering like it was on its last legs. The store looked the same, dingy, cold, with that buzz of the lights that made my skin crawl, but it felt heavier, like the air was holding its breath. I settled behind the counter, my flashlight and the rules clipboard in front of me, and tried to focus on my breathing. The clock hit 10 p.m., and I locked the front door early, not taking any chances. The fog outside swirled, and I kept glancing at the camera screen, the static flickering every few seconds. Around 11 p.m., I heard the knocking again. Soft, rhythmic, from the bathroom. My heart skipped and I checked the camera feed, the bathroom door still closed. But the static showed a faint shadow moving inside just for a second. I gripped my flashlight, my hands sweaty, and decided I needed answers. I remembered Tom's warning, don't break the rules. But he'd also said something about the store's history. Maybe there was a clue, something to explain all this. I started searching the counter, pulling open drawers, looking for anything that might help. Under a pile of receipts, I found a small notebook, its cover faded, the pages yellowed and curling at the edges. It was a logbook, dated back to the 70s with entries written in different handwriting, notes from past employees. I flipped through it, my hands trembling, and found a page that made my stomach drop. It was written by a girl named Linda, dated 1975. The man in the long coat keeps coming back. He asks questions, but the rules say not to answer. Last night, I heard him in the bathroom whispering my name. The lights went out and he was behind me. I'm quitting tomorrow. If I don't make it, tell them he's still here. My throat tightened, and I kept reading, finding more entries, employees talking about whispers, shadows, and customers who vanished. One entry stood out, from a guy named Dave in 1982. They say a guy died here in the 60s, a drifter killed in a fight out back. The owner covered it up, buried him under the store. That's why the rules exist. He's angry, and he wants someone to take his place. Don't break the rules or he'll mark you. I swallowed hard, my hands shaking, and looked at the bathroom door. Was that who I'd seen, the man in the long coat? My mind raced and I called Tom, my voice shaky. Tom, there's a logbook here, says a guy died, got buried under the store. Is that true? He sighed, his voice low. Yeah, kid. Old rumor. That's why the rules are there. Stick to him and you'll be fine. Don't go digging. He hung up, leaving me with more questions than answers. Around midnight, the knocking from the bathroom turned into a low hum, like someone muttering under their breath. I checked the camera screen, my heart pounding, and saw the shadow again, taller now. Wearing that long coat, standing inside the bathroom, its head tilted like it was listening. The static flickered and it was gone, but the hum didn't stop. I gripped the rules, my nails digging into the clipboard, and stayed behind the counter, my eyes darting between the screen and the aisles. The lights buzzed louder, flickering for a second, and I heard a crash from aisle 4. More cans falling, rolling across the floor. I didn't move, my hands trembling, but the shadow appeared on the camera again. This time in aisle 4, standing over the fallen cans, its face a blur. It turned toward the camera, its hand raising like a wave, and I felt a chill run down my spine. The lights flickered again, and the shadow moved fast, darting out of the frame, heading toward the counter. My breath caught, and I heard footsteps now, slow and heavy, coming from the back. I shone my flashlight down the aisles, my hands shaking. But the aisles were empty, the shadows stretching long and thin. The footsteps stopped, and the shadow stepped into the light, tall, thin, wearing that long black coat, its face pale, its eyes hidden under a baseball cap. It was the first customer from my first night, the one who'd vanished. He walked to the counter, his steps silent, and set down a pack of gum, his voice low. You got any water in the back? I froze, my throat tight, and shook my head, following Rule 4. He stared at me, his lips twitching into a smile, and leaned closer, his voice a whisper. You shouldn't have gone to the bathroom, Emily. My heart stopped, he knew my name, and I'd never told him. He turned and walked toward the bathroom, his shadow stretching behind him. And I watched on the camera screen as he reached the door and vanished, like he'd never been there. The gum was still on the counter, the wrapper damp, smelling like mildew, just like that dollar bill. I threw it under the counter, my hands trembling, and checked the camera feed. The bathroom door closed, but the hum was louder now, mixed with a faint sob, like someone crying. My stomach churned, and I knew I'd messed up, breaking Rule 4, going to the bathroom. I'd done something to make it worse. The rest of the night was a blur of noises, knocks, whispers, cans falling, the shadow flickering on the camera screen, always closer. I stayed behind the counter, my hands gripping the flashlight, my eyes on the rules, but I felt it watching me, waiting for me to slip up again. The clock hit 6 a.m. and Tom showed up, his truck rumbling into the lot. I bolted out from behind the counter, my legs shaky, and showed him the logbook. Tom, this place, it's haunted. I can't do this. He sighed, his eyes tired. You broke a rule, didn't you? Now it knows you. You can quit, but it might not let you go. I drove home, the logbook in my bag, my mind racing. I had to find a way out before it was too late. The logbook burned in my mind as I drove home, the words from Linda and Dave looping in my head. The man in the long coat, the drifter buried under Raven's Rest, the rules meant to keep him at bay. That shadow knew my name, and the damp gum wrapper under the counter smelled like a warning I couldn't ignore. I barely slept that day, the knocking from my apartment bathroom keeping me on edge. My flashlight clutched tight. I didn't want to go back, but I needed the money, and something deep down told me running wouldn't help. Whatever was in that store had marked me, and I had to face it. That night, I returned to Raven's Rest, the fog thicker than ever, the neon sign barely glowing through the haze. The store felt colder, the buzz of the lights sharper, and I locked the front door at 10 p.m., my hands shaky. The logbook sat under the counter, its pages whispering secrets I wasn't sure I wanted to know. I stayed behind the counter, my flashlight and the rules my only comfort, but the air grew heavy like something was waiting. The clock ticked past midnight and the whispers started, Emily, faint, coming from the bathroom, mixed with that low hum I'd heard before. Around 1 a.m., the lights flickered, the buzz turning into a sharp whine, and I checked the camera screen, my heart pounding. The bathroom door was cracked open, the shadow standing inside, its long coat swaying like it was caught in a breeze. The static flickered, and it was gone, but the hum grew louder, a sob breaking through. I gripped the counter, my nails digging in, and stayed put, following Rule 1. Then, without warning, the lights went out, total darkness, the hum cutting off, leaving just the drip of the faucet and my ragged breathing. I fumbled for my flashlight, my hands trembling, and clicked it on, the beam cutting through the black. The aisles stretched into shadows, the shelves looming like walls, and I heard a step, slow, heavy, coming from the back. My stomach dropped and I shone the light toward the sound. But nothing was there, just the fallen cans from last night, glinting in the beam. The step came again, closer, and I felt a cold breath on my neck, like someone standing right behind me. I spun around, my light shaking, but the counter was empty, the rules still there, mocking me with their silence. The whispers returned, Emily, stay, louder now, coming from everywhere, the aisles, the ceiling, the bathroom. I heard a scrape, like nails on wood, moving along the wall, and the camera screen flickered back on, showing the shadow standing in aisle 3, its head tilted, its blurry face turned toward me. My heart raced, and I stayed behind the counter, my hands gripping the flashlight, but the lights didn't come back. The store grew colder, the air thick with that sour smell, and I heard a thud loud, like a body hitting the floor, coming from the storage room. I couldn't stay still. Rule 1 be damned, I grabbed my flashlight and moved toward the storage room, my sneakers squeaking, my breath shallow. The door was ajar, the darkness inside thicker than outside, and I pushed it open, my light shaking. The room was a mess. Boxes toppled, a broom knocked over, and a puddle of something dark on the floor, reflecting my light like oil. I stepped closer, my stomach churning, and heard a whisper, Emily, right in my ear. I spun around, my light catching a figure, tall in a long coat, its face hidden, standing just behind me. I screamed, stumbling back, and the figure vanished, the light flickering for a second before going out again. I dropped to my knees, my hands shaking, and felt around for my flashlight, the darkness pressing in. The whispers grew, Emily, join us, overlapping like a crowd, and I heard footsteps, multiple now, circling the room, closing in. I found the flashlight, clicked it on, and saw shadows moving on the walls, tall shapes, coats swaying, their heads tilted, all watching me. My heart pounded, and I ran out of the storage room, slamming the door behind me, my legs weak. Back at the counter, the lights stayed off, the camera screen dead, and the whispers didn't stop, Emily, stay, coming from the bathroom, the aisles, the front door. I heard a bang loud, like someone hitting the locked door, and the handle rattled, the lock shaking but holding. My breath came fast, and I checked my phone, but there was no signal, just static like last time. The air grew colder, and I felt that breath again on my cheek this time, but when I turned, nothing was there, just the rules staring back at me. Around 3 a.m., the lights flickered back on, the buzz returning, and the whispers faded, leaving just the drip of the faucet. I checked the camera screen, my hands trembling, and saw the aisles empty, the fallen cans gone, like nothing had happened. But the storage room door was open again, the puddle still there, darker now, and I knew I hadn't imagined it. My chest tightened and I stayed behind the counter, my flashlight clutched tight, my eyes on the rules. The shadow knew I'd broken Rule 1 and it wasn't letting me forget. The rest of the night was a blur of noises, thuds, scrapes, whispers. The door rattling every few minutes. I heard a sob from the bathroom, clear and broken, and the camera flickered, showing that figure again, standing at the counter, its hand raised, its face a blur. I froze, my breath shallow, and watched as it turned and walked toward the bathroom, vanishing through the door. The clock hit 6 a.m., and Tom showed up, his truck rumbling into the lot. I bolted out, my legs shaky, my voice cracking. "Tom, the lights went out and there was something in there. I heard it, saw it." He sighed, his eyes tired. "You broke a rule, didn't you? It's getting stronger. You sure you want to keep this job?" I nodded, my throat tight, but I wasn't sure at all. I drove home, the logbook in my bag, my hands trembling on the wheel. The sour smell clung to me, and I heard a whisper, "Emily?" Faint, coming from the passenger seat. I glanced over, my heart pounding, but it was empty. Just the fog outside, thick and still. At my apartment, I locked the door, my flashlight beside me, and sat on the couch, the logbook open. The entries about the drifter, the rules, the disappearances, they all pointed to something I couldn't escape. The shadow was after me, and breaking the rules had made it worse. I had to find a way to fight back before it took me like it took Linda. The drive home left me shaky, that whisper, "Emily?" from the passenger seat echoing in my head, the logbook heavy in my bag like a curse I couldn't shake. I locked my apartment door, but the sour smell followed me and I heard faint knocks from the bathroom again, keeping me up all day. I didn't want to go back to Raven's Rest, I couldn't, but I had to. The shadow was getting stronger, and Tom's words, "It's getting stronger," burned in my mind. I'd broken the rules and now it knew me. I had to find a way to stop it or I'd end up like Linda. Or worse. That night, I dragged myself back to the store, the fog so thick I could barely see the road, the neon sign a faint glow in the haze. Raven's Rest looked darker. The windows smudged with something I couldn't make out, the air inside colder than ever. I locked the front door at 10 p.m., my hands trembling, and settled behind the counter. The logbook and rules in front of me. The lights buzzed, flickering every few seconds, and the camera screen showed static, the aisles empty but heavy with shadows. I kept my flashlight close, my heart already racing, knowing this night wouldn't be any easier. Around 11 p.m., the whispers started, "Emily, stay," faint at first, coming from the bathroom, mixed with that low sob I'd heard before. I checked the camera feed, the bathroom door closed, but the static flickered, showing a tall figure in a long coat, standing inside, its head tilted. My stomach dropped, and I stayed behind the counter, gripping the rules, my eyes darting between the screen and the aisles. The lights flickered again, and I heard a thud from aisle 2. Cans falling, rolling across the floor, the sound echoing in the quiet store. At midnight, I heard a loud click, the front door, the bolt sliding shut on its own even though I'd already locked it. I jumped, my flashlight clattering to the floor, and ran to the door, my hands shaking as I tried the handle. It wouldn't budge. The lock was stuck, the bolt jammed tight, like someone had sealed it from the outside. My heart pounded and I banged on the glass, the fog swirling outside, but no one was there. Rule 3, keep the door locked after 1 a.m. Didn't say anything about it locking itself. I backed away, my breath shallow, and heard the whispers again, "Emily, join us," louder now, coming from the aisles. I checked the camera screen, my hands trembling, and saw the shadow standing in aisle 3, its long coat swaying, its face a blur. It moved, slow and deliberate, heading toward the counter, its steps silent but heavy on the screen. My throat tightened and I grabbed my flashlight, shining it down the aisles, but the store was empty, the shadows stretching long and thin. The lights flickered, the buzz turning into a whine. And I heard a step reel this time, not on the camera, coming from the back, near the storage room. My heart raced and I stayed behind the counter, rule 1 keeping me in place. But every instinct screamed to run. The shadow appeared in the light, tall, thin, wearing that long black coat, its baseball cap pulled low, its face pale and blurred, like it didn't want to be seen. It stopped at the edge of the counter, its head tilting, and I saw its eyes for the first time, empty, black, like holes in its face. My breath caught and it raised a bony hand, pointing at me. Its voice a rasp. "You broke the rules, Emily." I froze, my hands trembling, and remembered rule 4, don't answer. I shook my head, my throat tight, but it stepped closer, its shadow stretching across the counter, the air growing colder with every inch. It leaned in, its face inches from mine, and I smelled it, mildew, rot, like the damp dollar bill and gum wrapper. "You shouldn't have left the counter," it whispered, its voice echoing in my skull, and I felt a pull, like something tugging at my mind, dragging me toward it. I stumbled back, my flashlight slipping from my hand, and it lunged, its bony fingers brushing my arm, cold as ice. I screamed, falling against the counter, and the lights flickered hard, plunging the store into darkness for a second before snapping back on. The shadow was gone, the counter empty, but my arm burned where it touched me, a faint red mark forming, like a burn. I scrambled to my feet, my hands shaking, and checked the camera screen. The shadow was back in the bathroom, standing by the sink, its head tilted like it was waiting. The whispers grew. "Emily, join us," overlapping, a chorus of voices now coming from everywhere. I heard a sob, loud and broken, from the bathroom, and the camera flickered, showing the door swinging open, though I knew it was locked. My stomach churned, and I stayed behind the counter, my hands gripping the flashlight, my eyes on the rules. I'd broken Rule 1 again, and now it was mad, really mad. The rest of the night was a nightmare. Thuds from the aisles, the door rattling, the lights flickering every few minutes. I heard footsteps circling the store, slow and heavy, and the camera screen showed the shadow moving aisle to aisle, closer each time, its empty eyes staring into the camera. My arm burned, the red mark spreading, and I felt that pull again, stronger now, like it was trying to drag me to the bathroom. The whispers didn't stop. "Emily, stay." And I heard a scrape, like nails on glass, coming from the front door, the shadow passing the window, its shape distorted in the fog. The clock hit 6 a.m., and Tom showed up, his truck rumbling into the lot. I tried the door. It opened now, the lock unsticking like nothing had happened. I bolted out, my legs shaky, my voice cracking. "Tom," it locked me in, the door, the shadow, it touched me. I showed him my arm, the mark red and swollen, like a handprint. He sighed, his eyes dark. "You broke another rule, didn't you? It's got your scent now. You can't run, it'll follow." I drove home, my hands trembling, the logbook in my bag. The whispers followed, "Emily," faint but clear, and I knew Tom was right. I was trapped, and Raven's Rest wasn't letting me go. I had to find a way to fight before it was too late. The red mark on my arm burned like a brand, the shadow's touch lingering, and that whisper, "Emily," followed me home, seeping into my dreams. I locked my apartment door, the logbook open on my table, my hands shaking as I stared at the entries. Linda's warning, Dave's story about the drifter buried under Raven's Rest, it all pointed to something I couldn't escape. Tom's words, "It's got your scent now," echoed in my head, and I knew quitting wouldn't help. The shadow was after me, and the rules I'd broken had made it stronger. I had to fight back, figure out how to stop it, or I'd end up like the others. That day, I barely slept, the knocking from my bathroom keeping me on edge, the sour smell creeping under the door. I called Jess, my voice shaky. "I think I'm in trouble at work, something weird's happening," I said. She sighed, her tone worried. I told you that place was bad news. Quick, come stay with me." I wanted to, but I shook my head even though she couldn't see. "I can't just run. I need to know what's going on." She didn't argue, just told me to be careful, and I hung up, my mindset. I had to dig deeper into the logbook. There had to be a clue. I flipped through the pages, my hands trembling, and found an entry from 1978, written by a guy named Paul. The drifter's name was Carl Hayes. Killed in a fight with the old owner, buried under the storage room floor. The rules keep him quiet, but if you break he gets mad, wants someone to take his place. Found an old prayer book in the back, blessed the spot, and he left me alone for a night. My heart raced. A prayer book, something holy. Maybe enough to fight Carl. The storage room floor, that's where he was buried, where the puddle had been. I needed to find that book, but the thought of going back made my stomach twist. That night, I returned to Raven's Rest, the fog so thick I could barely see the parking lot, the neon sign flickering like a dying pulse. I locked the door at 10 p.m., my hands sweaty, and brought a small cross necklace from home, slipping it into my pocket. The logbook stayed on the counter, open to Paul's entry, and I kept my flashlight close, my heart pounding. The whispers started early, "Emily, stay," coming from the bathroom, mixed with that sob I'd heard before. I checked the camera screen, the shadow standing inside, its long coat swaying, his face a blur. Around 11 p.m., I heard a thud from the storage room, louder than before, and the camera flickered, showing the door ajar. My stomach churned. And I remembered rule 1, don't leave the counter, but Paul's words pushed me forward. I grabbed my flashlight and the cross, my hands shaking, and moved toward the storage room. The air growing colder with every step. The aisles were quiet, the shadows stretching, and I reached the door, the puddle still there, darker now, reflecting my light like a mirror. I pushed it open. My breath shallow and stepped inside, the sour smell hitting me hard. The room was a mess, boxes tipped, the broom still on the floor, and I shone my light around, looking for the prayer book. The whispers grew, "Emily, join us," and I heard a step, slow and heavy, coming from the corner. I turned, my light catching a figure, the shadow, tall and thin, its long coat swaying. Its empty black eyes staring at me. My heart stopped, and it raised a hand, its voice a rasp. "You shouldn't be here, Emily." I froze, my hands trembling, and pulled out the cross, holding it up, my voice shaking. "Leave me alone." The shadow flinched, its form twisting, and the room trembled, boxes rattling on the shelves. The whispers turned into cries. "No, no." And I saw shadows moving on the walls, faint figures in coats, their heads tilted, circling me. I stepped back, my light shaking, and spotted a small book under a toppled box. Worn leather, pages yellowed, a cross etched on the cover. I lunged for it, my hands grabbing it as the shadow screamed, its claws slashing my arm, tearing my sleeve. I fell, crying out, the cross necklace slipping from my pocket, and the shadow loomed over me, its laugh echoing. I scrambled to my feet, clutching the prayer book, and held the cross up again, my voice breaking as I read the first page, a blessing for the dead, the words shaky on my tongue. "By the grace of God, release the soul. Let it rest." The shadow shrieked, its form breaking apart, ash falling like snow, and the room shook harder, the floor cracking under the puddle. The lights flickered, the whispers fading, and the shadow vanished, leaving just the drip of the puddle and my ragged breathing. I grabbed my flashlight, my arm burning from the cut, and ran back to the counter, the book clutched tight. Back at the counter, the lights stayed on, the camera screen clear, but the cut on my arm throbbed, a red mark spreading like the last time. I opened the prayer book, my hands trembling, and found more entries, blessings, notes from Paul about using it to hold Carl back. The clock hit 1 a.m., and the door clicked, locking itself again, the fog pressing against the windows. I heard a sob from the bathroom, louder now, and the camera flickered, showing the shadow, back, standing by the sink, its head tilted like it was waiting. My stomach dropped, it wasn't gone, just weaker. The rest of the night was tense, thuds, whispers, the door rattling, the shadow flickering on the camera, always closer. I stayed behind the counter, the prayer book and cross my only defense, but the mark on my arm burned, the red line spreading. The clock hit 6 a.m., and Tom showed up, his truck rumbling into the lot. I tried the door, it opened now, and bolted out, my legs shaky, showing him the cut. "Tom, I found a prayer book. It fought back, but it's still here." He sighed, his eyes dark. "You stirred it up, kid. The book might help, but that mark, it's got you now. Be careful." I drove home, the book in my bag, my mind racing. I had a weapon, but time was running out. The prayer book sat heavy in my bag as I drove home, the cut on my arm throbbing, the red lines spreading like veins under my skin. The whispers, "Emily," followed me, faint but clear, echoing from the empty passenger seat, and that sour smell clung to my clothes, a reminder of Raven's rest. I locked my apartment door, the cross necklace around my neck. But the knocking from my bathroom didn't stop, growing louder with every hour. I didn't sleep, my mind racing Paul's entry, the drifter Carl Hayes, the blessed spot under the storage room floor. The book had weakened the shadow, but it wasn't gone, and the mark on my arm told me time was running out. That night, I returned to Raven's Rest, my hands trembling as I gripped the prayer book. The cross necklace cold against my chest. The fog was thicker than ever, the neon sign barely visible, and the store felt alive, the air buzzing with something dark. I locked the door at 10 p.m., my heart pounding, and settled behind the counter, the prayer book open to the blessing, my flashlight ready. The camera screen flickered, the aisles empty, but the shadows stretched, watching me. I knew I couldn't just wait. I had to confront Carl, end this, or I'd never be free. Around 11 p.m., the whisper started, "Emily, join us." Louder now, coming from the bathroom, mixed with a sob that broke my heart. I checked the camera screen, the shadow standing inside, its long coat swaying, its empty black eyes staring into the camera. The lights flickered, the buzz turning into a whine, and I heard a thud from the storage room, the door creaking open on its own. My stomach dropped, but I couldn't run. I grabbed the prayer book, the cross, and my flashlight, my hands shaky, and moved toward the storage room, the air growing colder with every step. The storage room was darker than before, the puddle under the floor reflecting my light, the sour smell stronger. I stepped inside, my sneakers sticking to the floor, and shone my light around, the prayer book open in my hand. The whispers grew, "Emily, stay," and I heard a step, slow and heavy, coming from the corner. I turned, my light catching the shadow, tall, thin, its long coat swaying, its face pale, its eyes black holes, its mouth a jagged smile. My breath caught, and it raised a bony hand, pointing at me, its voice a rasp. "You can't stop me, Emily." I held up the cross, my hands trembling, and started reading the blessing, my voice shaky but firm. "By the grace of God, release the soul, let it rest." The shadow screamed, a sound that shook the walls, boxes tumbling from the shelves, and lunged at me, its claws slashing my shoulder. I fell, crying out, the prayer book slipping from my hand, and it pinned me down, its face inches from mine, its breath cold as ice. "You're mine," it hissed, its black eyes boring into me. And I felt that pull, stronger than ever, dragging my soul toward it. I reached for the cross, my fingers brushing it, and held it up, my voice breaking as I kept reading. "Cleanse this place. Break the curse." The shadow shrieked, its form twisting, ash falling like snow, and the room trembled, the floor cracking wider under the puddle. I saw bones yellowed, broken, poking through the crack, Carl's remains, and I kept reading, my hands shaking, the words tumbling out. The shadow's claws sank into my arm, the red mark burning, and I screamed. But I didn't stop, the blessing echoing in the room. The lights flickered hard, plunging the store into darkness, and the shadow's scream turned into a roar, its body breaking apart, ash and shadow swirling like a storm. I kept reading, my voice hoarse, until the last words, "Set it free." And the room shook one final time, the floor splitting open, the bones crumbling to dust. The lights snapped back on, the whispers fading into silence, and the shadow was gone, leaving just the cracked floor and the smell of ash. I collapsed, my chest heaving, my arm bleeding from the cuts, the prayer book still in my hand. I stumbled back to the counter, my legs weak, my shoulder throbbing, and checked the camera screen. The bathroom feed was clear. The aisles empty, the storage room door closed. The mark on my arm burned, the red lines darker now, spreading to my chest, and I felt a weight, like something was still inside me. The clock hit 1 a.m. and the door clicked, locking itself again, the fog pressing against the windows. I heard a sob from the bathroom, softer now, and the camera flickered, showing the shadow. Faint, but there, standing by the sink, its head tilted. My stomach dropped, it wasn't over. The rest of the night was tense thuds, whispers, the door rattling, the lights flickering every few minutes. I stayed behind the counter, the prayer book and cross my only defense. But the mark on my chest burned, the weight growing heavier. I felt that pull again, faint but real, like Carl was still there, waiting. The clock hit 6 a.m. and Tom showed up, his truck rumbling into the lot. I tried the door, it opened now, and bolted out, my legs shaky, showing him the cuts, the mark. "Tom, I used the book. Blessed the spot, it's weaker, but it's still here." He sighed, his eyes dark. "You stirred up more than you should have, kid. That mark, it's in you now. You might have bought time, but it's not done." I drove home, the prayer book in my bag, my hands trembling on the wheel. The whispers followed, "Emily," faint but clear, and I felt the weight in my chest, heavier now, like something growing. At my apartment, I locked the door, the cross around my neck, and sat on the couch, the prayer book open. The knocking from my bathroom started again, louder, and I heard a sob. The same broken sound from the store. I checked my arm, the red lines spreading to my neck, and felt my vision blur, shadows moving in the corners of my eyes. The shadow wasn't gone, it was inside me. And I didn't know how to stop it. I had to go back, finish this, or it would never let me go. The weight in my chest grew heavier with every breath, the red lines from the mark creeping up my neck, pulsing like a second heartbeat. The prayer book sat on my table, its pages worn. But it hadn't saved me. The shadow was still there, its whispers, "Emily, haunting my apartment, mixing with the knocks from the bathroom. I hadn't slept in days, my eyes sunken, my hands trembling as I clutched the cross necklace. The cuts on my arm and shoulder throbbed, the sour smell clinging to me, and I knew I was losing myself. Carl Hayes wasn't gone. He was inside me, growing stronger, and I didn't know how to stop it. I called Jess that morning, my voice cracking. "I think I'm in trouble, something's wrong with me," I said, my hands shaking. She paused, her tone urgent. You sound awful. Quit that job, come stay with me now." I wanted to, but the weight in my chest pulled me back, and I muttered, "I can't. It's following me." She begged me to get help, but I hung up, my mind spinning. I looked in the mirror, and my breath caught. My eyes were darker, my face paler, my mouth twitching into a smile I didn't control. I stumbled back, knocking over a chair, and felt tears mix with the panic rising in my throat. That night, I dragged myself to Raven's Rest, the fog so thick it felt like a wall, the neon sign a faint flicker. The store was colder, the air buzzing with something alive, and I locked the door at 10 p.m., my hands sweaty. The prayer book and cross were my only weapons. But the mark on my chest burned, the red lines spreading to my face. The camera screen flickered, the aisles empty, but I felt it, the shadow, watching, waiting. The whispers started, "Emily, join us," louder now, coming from the bathroom, the aisles, even my own head. Around 11 p.m., the lights flickered, the buzz turning into a whine. And I heard a sob, clear, broken, like someone crying right beside me. I checked the camera screen, my hands trembling, and saw the shadow standing in aisle 3, its long coat swaying, its empty eyes staring into the camera. The static flickered, and it moved fast, darting toward the counter, its steps silent but heavy. My heart raced, and I gripped the prayer book, my voice shaking as I started reading the blessing. "By the grace of God, release this soul." The shadow appeared, its face inches from mine, its black eyes boring into me. "You can't escape," it hissed, its voice in my skull, and I felt that pull, dragging my mind toward it. I stumbled back, my hands trembling, and held up the cross, my voice breaking. "Leave me alone." The shadow flinched, its form twisting, but it didn't vanish. It lunged, its claws slashing my cheek, the cut burning like fire. I fell, the prayer book slipping, and it pinned me to the counter, its cold hands on my throat, its smile wide. "You're mine now," it whispered, and I saw flashes: Carl's death, the fight, the burial under the floor, memories that weren't mine, flooding my head. I fought, my hands scrabbling for the cross, and held it up, my voice hoarse as I kept reading. "Cleanse this place. Break the curse," the shadow screamed, its body breaking apart, ash falling, but the room trembled, the floor cracking. The mark on my chest burned, the red lines pulsing, and I felt it, Carl, inside me, fighting back. The lights went out, plunging the store into darkness, and the shadow's roar filled the room, its claws sinking into my arm. I screamed, my vision blurring, and reached for the prayer book, my fingers brushing it as the lights snapped back on. The shadow was gone, the counter empty, but the mark on my chest throbbed, the red lines spreading to my hands. I collapsed, my breath shallow, and checked the camera screen. The bathroom door was open, the shadow standing inside, faint but there, its head tilted. The whispers returned, "Emily, stay." Softer now, but inside my head like my own voice. My stomach churned, and I felt my body move. Not by choice. Toward the bathroom, my legs heavy, my mind screaming to stop. I fought it, clutching the cross. But the pull was stronger, dragging me step by step. The clock hit 1 a.m. and the door clicked, locking itself, the fog pressing against the windows. I heard a sob from the bathroom, loud and close. And the camera flickered, showing the shadow waiting, its hand raised. I stayed behind the counter, my hands shaking, the prayer book open, but the mark burned, the weight in my chest growing. I started reading again, my voice weak, set it free. But the shadow laughed, its voice in my head. "You're part of me now." My vision blurred, and I saw my reflection in the camera screen, my eyes black, my face pale, my mouth a jagged smile. The rest of the night was a haze, whispers, thuds, the door rattling. The shadow flickering on the camera, always closer. I felt my thoughts slipping, memories of Carl, the fight, the burial, mixing with mine, and I heard myself whispering, "Emily, join us." I clamped my mouth shut, my hands trembling, and stayed behind the counter, the cross my only anchor. The clock hit 6 a.m., and Tom showed up, his truck rumbling into the lot. I tried the door. It opened, and bolted out, my legs shaky, my voice cracking. Tom, it's inside me. The mark, the whispers. I can't stop it. He sighed, his eyes dark. You're marked, kid. The book might slow it, but it's got your soul now. You gotta decide, fight or let go. I drove home, the prayer book in my bag, my hands trembling. The whispers followed, Emily, louder now. And I felt my body move, not by choice, toward the bathroom at home. I locked the door, the cross around my neck, and sat on the couch, the mark burning. I opened the prayer book, my hands shaking, and read the blessing again, my voice fading. The knocking started, rhythmic and steady, and I heard a sob, my own voice, echoing from the bathroom. I looked in the mirror, my eyes darker, my face hollow, and knew I was losing. I had to go back, face it one last time, or it would take me completely. The mirror showed a stranger. My face, but not mine. Pale and hollow, my eyes black pits, my mouth twitching into a smile I didn't want. The red lines from the mark covered my neck, my chest, my hands, pulsing with every heartbeat, and the weight inside me grew. Carl's whispers, Emily, join us, mixing with my own voice. The prayer book lay open on the table, the cross around my neck useless. And the knocking from my bathroom wouldn't stop, a steady rhythm that drove me to the edge. I hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, my body shaking as I stared at the reflection. I was losing, and I knew it. I had to go back to Raven's Rest, face it one last time, or let it take me completely. That night, I drove to the store, the fog so thick it swallowed the road, the neon sign a faint flicker in the haze. My hands trembled on the wheel, the prayer book and cross in my bag, but the mark burned, the weight pulling me forward. I locked the door at 10 p.m. The air cold and heavy, the lights buzzing like a warning. The camera screen flickered, the aisles empty, but I felt it, the shadow inside me watching through my own eyes. The whispers started, Emily, stay, loud and clear, coming from the bathroom, the aisles, my own head. Around 11 p.m. the lights flickered, the buzz turning into a whine. And I heard a sob, my own voice, broken and desperate, echoing from the bathroom. I checked the camera screen, my hands shaking, and saw the shadow standing inside, its long coat swaying, its empty eyes staring back at me. The static flickered, and it moved, fast, darting toward the counter. Its steps silent but heavy. My heart raced, and I gripped the prayer book, my voice weak as I started reading the blessing. By the grace of God, release the soul. The shadow appeared, its face inches from mine, its black eyes boring into me. You're mine, it hissed, its voice in my skull, and I felt the pull, dragging my soul out, Carl's memories flooding my mind. The fight, the burial, the anger. I stumbled back, my hands trembling, and held up the cross, my voice breaking. Leave me alone. The shadow flinched, its form twisting, but it didn't vanish. It laughed, its claws slashing my arm, the cut burning deep. I fell, the prayer book slipping, and it pinned me to the counter, its cold hands on my throat, its smile wide. There's no escape, it whispered, and I saw my reflection in its eyes, my face, but hollow like it was already gone. I fought, my hands scrabbling for the cross, and held it up, my voice hoarse as I kept reading. Cleanse this place, break the curse, the shadow screamed, its body breaking apart, ash falling. But the room trembled, the floor cracking. The mark on my chest burned, the red lines pulsing, and I felt Carl, inside me, fighting to stay, his anger mixing with mine. The lights went out, plunging the store into darkness, and the shadow's roar filled the room, its claws sinking into my chest. I screamed, my vision blurring, and reached for the prayer book, my fingers brushing it as the lights snapped back on. The shadow was gone, the counter empty, but the mark throbbed, the red lines covering my face, my vision darkening. I collapsed, my breath shallow, and heard a whisper, Emily, join us, my own voice, coming from the bathroom. I stumbled to my feet, my legs heavy, and moved toward it, the pull dragging me, my mind screaming to stop. The camera screen flickered, showing the shadow faint, but there, standing by the sink, its hand raised. I reached the bathroom door, my hands shaking, and pushed it open, the sour smell hitting me hard. Inside, the mirror was fogged, the word stay scratched into the steam, and I saw my reflection. My eyes black, my face pale, my mouth a jagged smile. The shadow stood behind me, its hands on my shoulders, its voice in my head. You're part of me now. I felt my body move, not by choice, toward the sink, and I fought, clutching the cross, reading the blessing one last time. Set it free, the shadow screamed, its form breaking apart, but the mark burned, the weight exploding inside me, and I fell, my vision fading. The lights went out, and when they came back, I was gone, or what was left of me. The clock hit 6 a.m. and Tom showed up, his truck rumbling into the lot. He found the door locked. The prayer book on the counter, the cross on the floor, and a note in my handwriting I couldn't escape. It took me. The camera screen was blank. But the audio caught a whisper, "Emily, join us." Faint but clear, even after I was gone. He called the cops, his hands shaking, and they searched the store, finding the cracked floor in the storage room, the dust of bones, but no sign of me. A week later, the store reopened, the fog lifting for a day, but the whispers lingered. A new employee, Sarah, started the night shift, young, eager, unaware. She locked the door at 10 p.m., the lights buzzing, and heard a knock, soft, rhythmic, coming from the bathroom. She checked the camera screen, her heart skipping, and saw a shadow tall, in a long coat, standing inside, its head tilted. "Hello?" she called, her voice echoing, and the whisper came, Sarah, faint but real. She froze, the lights flickering, and knew something was wrong. The store was quiet, too quiet, and the cycle had begun again. Raven's Rest stood empty most days, the windows smudged, the neon sign flickering. But locals started talking, seeing a figure in the fog, pale and hollow, its eyes black, whispering names. Kids dared each other to peek inside, hearing sobs and knocks, some running out pale, saying they saw a girl in the mirror, her face twisted, calling their names. The logbook stayed with Tom, its pages yellowed, its warnings unread. But the curse didn't die. I was part of it now, a shadow in the fog, my voice joining Carl's, waiting for the next one to take my place. I don't know where I am. Trapped in the store, the bathroom, the mirror. My thoughts a mix of mine and Carl's. The anger, the sorrow. I see Sarah, her hands shaking, her eyes wide, and I want to warn her, but my voice is lost in the whispers, join us, join us. The fog wraps Raven's Rest. The mark spreads through the night, and I'm part of the chain, calling the next soul, the cycle never ending. It took me, and now I take others forever.